Hello, everyone. So one of the next things that you guys asked me to help you out with is coloring an eye. Coloring the eye will extend to coloring the lips, coloring any other part of the body. This is actually great because it talks about low lights, highlights, different colors added on top of one another. So the eye is a great place to look at. This basically the way that you're coloring your eyes, the same way you would color your lips and any other part of your body. Even if you add clothing in, the clothing would be colored the same exact way basically as we're coloring the eye. So here's my outlines. I just basically pulled up an eye offline and just am going off of that. We're going to do the same process of I'm going to lower the opacity down just as I had here. There was face color in, so remember you're doing your eye color after your face color is added in. The other thing is people ask me, how do you do eyelashes? So we're actually going to do that part first, then we'll worry about coloring. So the first thing we're going to do is basically we're going to draw one eyelash. And the nice thing is after you put it in a group, so notice that I have all my outlines grouped, and now I have my eyelashes. And eventually I'm going to pull this inside the outline folder because eyelashes are essentially an outline if you think of it that way. But right now I'm going to create this group and I'm just going to pull this down later. So I've created one eyelash so far. And if I switch over to the node tool, I'll be able to pull this away. Actually, I'll grab the move tool and I'll pull this away, and you can see that that's lined up right on top of an eyelash. So again, what I can do is like any other project, you've already created it once, why create it again? So I'm going to switch to the node tool, so this way it's going to be easier later on the next step. I'm going to duplicate my my layer, and sorry, I hit the wrong button. So I'm going to duplicate this so you can see how I now have two eyelashes. I am going to just pull these buttons, these nodes out now and just line them up, and then hit Command J again, and I'm just going to do another one. So you can see how I can kind of quickly, again hitting the wrong button, keep hitting Command J and copying these over. Now the nice thing is if I do this a few times, add up just a few of these just to kind of get myself going. Later on, these bigger ones, they're going to be easier to do because what we'll do is we'll wind up copying this entire group and then putting them back into one group at the end, so this way it doesn't get too confusing. But you can see how we already started to add those eyelashes. I don't like the way that the pressure is for myself. You don't have to change this, but I'm going to highlight all of these. So if you don't like the way that these look, because notice that they're kind of thick in the center but thin in the ends completely. Eyelashes or all hair is thick towards the beginning and thinner as it goes out. So I'm basically going to mimic that. So I'm going to highlight all these. Again, you don't have to do this. I'm going to go back into my pressure, and yep, look, it looks like they're bigger towards the end. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of mess with these until they match the way that an eyelash would wind up matching or wind up being. Again, thick in the beginning, thinner on the end. I can click off of them and they look great. They do look a little fuzzy, so I'm just going to bring up that thickness just a little bit more in the beginning. I don't know why I did that, but it'll be fine. I am also zoomed in at 500%. If I zoom out, we're not going to notice it as much. So what I can do now is, the nice thing is again, I'm going to highlight all these, and I'm going to duplicate them. I like grouping them back together, so see how they kind of skipped every other, because basically the way that it's copied. If you just kind of drag one down, let's do it on the bottom. You drag one down underneath the bottom one. Notice they all group back up. Okay, and that will be easier for now when we go to move these. Basically what it's allowing me to do is just make quick copies of them. I can also make these larger, and I can move them individually now because they're all together and I know where they're going to be at. Otherwise, you got to kind of search through all of them, which can be a little annoying. And the other thing I can do is I can tilt these out if I need to, just to make my life a little bit easier. And again, since I created a bunch of them already, I might as well just highlight them all and make copies again. And this time I can make them closer together and longer and just add them here. Maybe give them a little tilt because my eye is starting to tilt up. And now I kind of have more eyelashes. Do they have to match the way that your picture is exactly? Absolutely not. But if you have a couple phantom ones down here, look at this one. This one absolutely does not look right. And again, I didn't move them down like I was supposed to. So let me do that. Pull these down, see how it's nice and easier now to find which one's which. Basically, I'm just going to kind of move these around so this way they all come off of that edge because there's a little lip basically on your eye, and that little lip holds all of our eyelashes. They don't obviously go under the eyelid, so we don't want it to do that. And obviously they don't go above the eyelid either, so I'm going to have to find that one or two that are too high. Looks like this one. There's another one up there. Basically just bring them down. I can move them around so this way it's not exactly the same for all these. And if I really want to, I can just come back to my pen tool, make sure it's on line mode, and just kind of add a couple real long ones just to match. Or what I could do is just now copy these over and over again because now I got a couple of them. Because usually eyelashes are kind of in pairs, I find, too. So it'll make things a little bit easier just to kind of do a couple at a time sometimes as well. So I'm going to just duplicate these. Again, bring them down so I know where they're at. And maybe misshape them so they look different. And I can just move them. Kind of like these these corner ones. So I'm just going to duplicate them. Again, I like bringing them down so they're all grouped together. Makes it easier when I go to try to do things with them later on by moving them, adjusting them, and stuff like that. So that's basically it for the eyelashes. So I can explain more to you individually if you want, but you can see how that's really starting to come underway. I don't want to spend too much time on this. I'll do a little bit more of that later on in class if you guys want. So the next thing I want to talk about is coloring of the eye. So basically, you're going to look like this at the time when you go to color your eye. You're going to hide that face color, so this way that's not there. And then basically what you're going to do is trace the eye again, just like you did with the entire face. I'm going to just kind of click here and here. I'm going to go at the intersections. I wasn't on pen mode again, so that did not continue. So again, you can kind of just continue with these. Again, I'm just going to add a couple extra little spots. I want to make sure that I stay underneath this black line, and I'm just going to continue this around. Actually, probably could actually stop just somewhere around here with what I'm doing because this is the only area that's going to be white. Let me connect these two dots and just bring this over. Now, I want the white of the eye in here, so I'm going to grab the eyedropper and click it. Notice that that puts that in. Sometimes if you're clicking off of an image that's already low in opacity, you have to bring the opacity back up. So just realize that, and that is in your color panel, so make sure that you do that. Notice that the eye is not completely stark white. It is a little bit of blue. It sometimes has a little red tint to it. No eye is perfectly white, so know that because you got to figure it's a ball that's a transparent ball that's inside of a socket. So it's definitely not pure white. Most people do when I'm putting an actual white on it. I actually don't like how blue this is, so I'm just gonna raise this up a little bit. So this way it's just there. Notice that it has a little bit of blue with the B and the A on this one. Remember, I like to switch to the LAB sometimes in order to get to the lightness a little bit easier. All right, so anyway, so as I add these layers, what I'm going to do is after I add the layer, I'm going to hide it. And then I'm going to add another layer on top of that one. So now I'm going to add my eyeball. To get these circles right, again, pen mode, trace, and I find that a triangle actually, or a triangle works the best usually for coloring of a circle. I just find it a little bit easier. I do have a stroke in this, and not only that, but my layers are not underneath the outlines. So just realize that I'm going to have to adjust that in a second. So I go up to stroke, and I hit none. So now I don't have a stroke. I'm also going to pull these two layers. I just hit shift there, and so I can select both of them, and I pull them down. So now the outlines are there. Now, obviously, the eye color is wrong, so I'm going to make sure I'm clicked on that layer. I'm going to hide it, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to get an eye color. I'm going to go with this lighter one. Again, make sure that your opacity is up at 100%. So there's that eye color. And then I'm going to get these other shapes that are in here. So let's explain a little bit of it. Notice that there is a little bit of a shadow that's going across the top of the eye here, so we're going to create a shadow up here. Plus, there's additional colors closer to where the actual pupil is in the iris. So I'm going to mimic those two things as well. And then there's a couple random little shapes. I wouldn't go too crazy because you're going to be zoomed out. But if your picture's close to your eye, definitely make sure that this stuff is included. So again, I'm just going to come in here with my pen tool, and I'm just going to kind of mimic some of these shapes. Again, make sure that you copy this. I don't have to go all the way up to this top. I can round these out just a little bit, because obviously we're on an eye, although there are shapes in here that are created differently. And I can worry about adding that black in. Now notice we have the same two colors here. Again, this is where I hide, make sure the layer that I want to change is selected. I grab that eyedropper, find the color I want, and I bring it back. Now that's a little bit too different in color. I don't like that, so I'm going to try again. If it winds up giving me trouble, where I keep getting too dark of a color, what I'll wind up doing is I'll just go back to the original color. Yeah, I think once I add the other color, I might like this, the shadow. But if I don't like it, what I'll do is I'll go back to the original, and then here on the L, I'll just bring it down a little bit, so this way they're the same color, just a darker version of it. Now this person's eye has a different color in the center, so we kind of have to try to mimic that. So again, hide, add in additional things that you see. So we have that shadow that goes across up top here. So I'm going to just kind of mimic that in the eye. So there's that shadow that's kind of all the way up here. And I'm just going to bend that up just a little bit. So again, those are the two same color. I'm going to just add a little bit of a blue hint to it, just the teeniest bit. So it's slightly different color, maybe a little green, darken it just a little bit. I can play with my own colors if I want to, or you could just use the eyedropper. The other thing is on an eye, there's the white, or like this reflection. Make sure you include that. Everyone looks for that, whether you know it's there or not. Your mind's looking for it, because it's the reflection of the light off of your eyeball. It's a really important part, so don't forget it. So I got to also make sure that I draw the black. So again, for circles, I like triangles. They wind up making it so much easier for some reason. So I'm just going to create that. Never do true black. I don't like doing true black. It's never really true black. So when you do this, notice I'm going to just add just a little bit of red into it or something like that. This way, it kind of just blends the colors a little bit better. Now I'm on the wrong layer there, so I'm going to bring it up. And then I'm just going to add the white of the white spot on the eye, and I will be all done. So again, pen tool, kind of round this out. I should have added more, so I'm going to delete this off. And I'm going to mimic this perfectly. And this one, I don't mind being closer to real white, so we're going to leave that there. I'm going to leave it exactly it is. I just brought this out all the way from complete darkness all the way up to light. And now when I combine all these and I zoom back out, notice that we got a pretty decent eye, except for I don't like this color. So we're just going to kind of come back with it, bring it back closer to this. And I can always add in additional shapes or something like that to make it look more realistic. Again, I'm not a big fan of the way that it went up being at the end, the color inside here, but it's not a bad looking eye as you zoom out. So you can continue, play with it. It doesn't have to be 100% perfect, but we obviously want it to look as best as possible. Actually, without that shadow, it looks great. So what I might do is I'm going to just come in with the eyedropper, put it back to the original, and just bump it down just a little bit in darkness. So this way, these colors are pretty close. And I forgot to click it back, so that's why I couldn't see what was going on. So just add just that little bit. I think also that straight line across, my viewer's eye is not liking the straight line. So since my eye as a viewer is not liking it, that's probably why I don't like it in the project. So again, just adding that little shape. Again, it has a lot to do with just not liking the shadow going directly across. I think that's why I didn't like it. So I think just that little adjustments that I did there, I like it a lot more. So again, you're playing with it. Remember, there's a little bit of flesh color that's here, a little bit pinker than normal flesh that's in this corner. So don't forget that when you go to do it. It is very pink with the tear duct. And also one more thing that I'll mention before I end this video. When you go to do this, make sure you add that little ledge, but do it with color. And what I mean by that is, you see this little ledge that's here where your eyelashes essentially come off of, where your eyelids essentially close to one another. That little shape there is important for creating a nice eye if you're doing it super realistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create the nice little shape that's here. I'm going to bring this back, and I'm just going to use the command tool, bring it back over here. That little ledge that I created is super important for making this look like a real eye. Again, I just need to find that real nice color. What I might have to do is get the flesh tone color, add in a little pink to it, so maybe go up a few and just bring down the darkness just a little bit. And you'll notice and now that has like a nice little shape to it. Again, make sure you're not on top of the outlines. I'm going to make sure I'm always underneath. Okay, so any questions, let me know. Have fun with this. Whatever you're doing doesn't necessarily mean that it's wrong if you're struggling. You just might need to make a few little minor adjustments or add a couple little things here and there, and it will be great. So any questions, let me know. And this is like a ton of stuff that I did, and you could probably get away with doing a little bit less, but I wanted to show you how to do an eye at 100%. So any questions, let me know, and good luck.